All right, welcome out to the Gridiron 64 podcast, where it's Tuesday night. We've got a podcast to talk about Texas high school football. Last week of the regular season, as the week after this Friday, we'll be talking playoffs. We also said last night on our podcast that we would be going live. We're still working on that. I'm excited about that. I know the guys, the crew. Remember, we're the crew. The crew's excited as well, as that'll be the first time we'll go live. So we'll see how that goes. So we'll be talking with the guys. Seth is unavailable tonight. So we've got this. Some of us are also paying attention to the elections tonight. That's heavily on the mind of some of us as well. So we're going to be paying attention to the election, and then we're also going to be doing a podcast. And so I'm ready to get started. I think the crew's ready as well. We've got 21 games with there was on the schedule minus one. I think there was some COVID issues, and when we come down the list, we'll talk about that game that was canceled. But the crew's ready. Johnny, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Tony,
I'm ready, man.
TJ.
Absolutely. I'm ready to get this week started. This is exciting. Let's get it.
It is, as I said, it's the last week of the regular season. What a regular season it's been, right? With some teams off and on, some teams coming to the game really, really late, but have a chance to, if they can win this week, make it into the playoffs. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that since I followed high school football. So it's exciting to talk about these teams, and we'll go ahead and get started. Week one, game one on the Gridiron. We had the Flower Bluff Hornets going up against the Moody Trojans. That game will be played at Cabness. I think that is a Thursday game, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go to Tony first. Tony, who do you got, Flower Bluff or Moody?
Well, that one's going to be easy one for me. You know, we talked about Moody starting off strong, kind of falling off since then. 3-2. They're 3-2. They're not doing bad. But I also did say in the beginning of the season that I think the battle for first place is going to be between Flower Bluff and Veterans Memorial. And I still believe that. So I think Flower Bluff's going to win, and they're going to win big.
Johnny?
I'm easily going to go with Flower Bluff on this one. That's just Flower Bluff's playing a different level over Moody, so that's an easy pick for me.
TJ?
Well, make this a clean sweep because Flower Bluff, they have probably the best defense in that district, in my opinion. And Moody, they don't have the talent factor that Flower Bluff has, and it's going to be tough against that defense with Moody running the ball. That Flower Bluff Hornet defense, they will sting the Trojans in this one. I'm going Flower Bluff.
I got to go with Flower Bluff as well, although I think Moody's had a surprising season. When they first came out, they got a couple of wins that we didn't think here on the Gridiron that they could win. We really didn't know much about them when they started the season, so they were a little impressive. They've kind of, gone down a little. But this is a team, Moody, that you have to come in if you're going to play them. You have to come in with your A game because they do have some players at their skill positions. So if you're not on your A game, they could beat you. Although we don't see Moody beating Flower Bluff. Flower Bluff doesn't have to. They do have to come out and play and score because this team can score. They can't throw the ball like we've seen this season. So they're not just a team that you can just run over. They're a little scary. So Flower Bluff will have to come in and play. But I do give it to Flower Bluff as well, as I think they'll take the win over Moody. Game 2 on the gridiron, we have the 10th ranked Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial Eagles. They'll be playing the Carroll Tigers. TJ, I'll go to you. TJ, Carroll's had a couple of wins, here at the podcast. Early on, we thought that maybe Carroll wouldn't even win a game, and then they surprised us a little bit. And they won a couple of games, but of course, they're playing the toughest team in the coastal Bend area. So, do you give them any shot to compete and possibly beat Vets?
Absolutely not. And here's why. Because Carroll, they actually impressed me this season with those couple of wins, but it's Veterans Memorial. They're the favorites to win this district, and they have a absolutely stunning offense. Their defense is impeccable. Just like I was saying about Flower Bluff, they have a good defense. I don't think they're the best defense in the district, but I don't think defense Veterans Memorial offense. So I'm picking Veterans Memorial big in this one, and they're going to soar high in this one.
Johnny?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Veterans Memorial on this one. Carroll just had their high right at one time, but the Vets are a different level on this one too, just like the Flower Bluff game. So I'm easily going with the Vets on this one.
Tony, yeah, Carroll's had a couple of exciting wins, I guess, this year, right? But this is a whole different beast in CC Vets. So I'll ask you, do you think Carroll can score, be a little competitive with Vets, or do you think Vets is going to come in here and blow Carroll out?
Yeah, I don't think Carroll has a chance. Carroll finally got a win after 3 years or whatever it was, after 25 straight losses. But they're just in a tough district, and it's hard to win games in that district. And they're definitely not going to win this game.
Yeah, guys, I got to agree with you. I got to go with Vets too. I think I predicted early on that Vets would be the district champs, and I haven't changed my mind on that. So I'm going Vets all the way. Game 3 on the gridiron, we have the number 6 ranked Mandeville Mavericks. They'll be playing Hightower Hurricanes. I know this is, I think, a Thursday game as well, if I'm not mistaken. We don't really talk about Mandeville or Hightower, so this is the first time I think we've had both of these guys, both of these teams on the gridiron. So, Johnny, I'll go with you first. Who you got, Mandeville or Hightower?
I'm gonna go with Hightower on this one. Um, Try to do a little breakdown as far as who they played. Um, Nothing really stood out for me on the whole thing, even though they played some state ranked teams in there. But they both lost against the state ranked teams in there. Um, but one thing I did see was the game against Angleton, which they both played, and Hightower ended up beating them pretty bad compared to Mandeville did. So that's why I'm picking Hightower on this one.
Tony?
See and look at my notes here. Yeah, I think I'm going with Hightower. See, I know there was a reason. I got my notes. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, even though Manville only has one loss, is what I got. I got them at 3-1. Is that what y'all got?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Hightower. Well, first of all, they had a bigger win against Angleton than Manville did, and then I was looking at their preseason games, and it looks like the games that Hightower played were a little bit tougher. So that's why I went with Hightower on this one.
TJ?
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to disagree with y'all for the first time tonight. Manville had to play against Galena Park North Shore, and they did get destroyed by them, but that's their only loss was against a really high talented team of Galena Park North Shore, and I can't go against Manville on this one. It looks like it's gonna be a close game, but I give Manville a win by 10 on this one.
Yeah, TJ, I got to agree with you. I like Manville. I've seen them a couple of times in the past. This is a real talented team. They're not as talented, I believe, this year as they have been in the past. But I think they'll get that win. I think it'll be a good competitive game against this team. But I think Manville's going to be able to pull it out. So I'm going with Manville over Hightower. So we're kind of divided 2-2. We shall see what happens when we break down this game next week. Game 4 on the Gridiron, Miller Bucks traveling to play the Beaver Trojans. We've talked about Beeville and the struggles that they've had. We've also talked about Miller and how good they've gotten in the last couple of weeks versus the way they started off the season. So, TJ, I'll go to you first. Miller or Beeville?
Arr, I gotta go with the Miller Bucks. And here's the reason why, because Beeville is struggling this season. They went from being a 11-1 team last season to a deflated football team, and they can't outbeat that speed. They that offense is too fast for them, and I got to go with Miller on this one. Easy victory.
Johnny?
I'm gonna go with Miller on this one. Beeville has not been the team that was expected to be this year. Um, they just fell apart here towards the end, bad. So I'm easily gonna go with Miller on this one.
Tony?
Yeah, I think Miller's gonna win, and Miller's ending the season making a statement. Almost beating Cal Allen and almost beating Port Lavaca, and then destroying the big one they had last week. I mean, I feel like Miller's gonna make the statement to end the season, and they're gonna really put a beating on Beeville. So I'm going with Miller.
Guys, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going with Miller because I just think they're playing better ball down the stretch. But Beeville struggled. But don't be surprised if Beeville becomes more competitive in this game than they have the last couple of weeks, simply because I talk a lot about Coach Sosa and the way he can prepare a team. This is a coach that's been around and he's won everywhere he's ever gone. They won't make the playoffs, I don't believe, but he could tell his guys, look, we got to come out with a bang. We've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. This is a building block for next year for these underclassmen. So I expect that Beeville at home will play Miller. This is a good opportunity for them to end the season on a note to build on for next year. And I think that they're going to play like they got nothing to lose. Miller, we've seen, even though they played really good. We've seen them in the struggles. We've seen that defense. That offense scores points, but we've seen that defense give up big points. And so, you know, Beeville could be more competitive than what we give them credit for. Although at the end of this game, I think Miller's offense will be too explosive for Beeville. But I do look, I would not be surprised if Beeville becomes a little bit more competitive and not get blown out. But we'll see. This will tell me a lot about Beeville and where they'll go next year because they gotta end even if they lose to Miller. But I like to see them be competitive, trying to build in for next year. So it'll be hopefully a good competitive game. But I'm going to go with the Miller Bucks. Number 5 on the gridiron, we have the Alice Coyotes. They're back this week. They'll be traveling to Toloso Midway to play the Warriors. This one, I believe, has playoff implications. Before I go to Tony, I'll tell you, and guys, Alice, if they win and they make it to the playoffs, wow, because this is the team that has not been able to get on a roll. When they get going, something hits them and they have to stop play and stop practice and then get back into practice. So this has been a very tough season for the Alice Coyotes. That all being said, though, Tony, they've got an opportunity to still get in the playoffs. And I think that they got a really good chance of beating TM. What do you say about this game?
Yeah, I actually picked Toloso Midway. I talked earlier in the season. Before there was a lot of wins and losses, and before COVID really had an impact on Alice. I talked about Alice being a really competitive football club. They've never been uh, dominant in their district, but they've been in a tough district for the last 10 years. So, I don't expect them to be district champs or anything like that, but they are usually very competitive. Rockport has played them a few times and actually had some close games, but ended up on the losing end of those games. But even having said that, I feel like Toloso Midway, the kind of season that they're having, I think that they really, really can see, taste the playoffs, and they know that they need to get through this game to get there. And I think that they will. I'm going to go with Toloso Midway on this game.
Hey Johnny, before you make your pick, listen. These are two teams that have not gotten to the playoffs in a while, right? So they're both hungry. TM being the team that's probably been out of the playoffs longer than Alice, but either way, both of these teams can taste the playoffs because they haven't been there in the last couple of years. Who do you have in this game, TM or Alice?
I have Alice in this one. Um, yes, they only had that one win, um, which comes against Beeville, which was basically almost the same score that TM played. I mean, not much of a different score there. Um, the one game I'm really looking at was the game against Miller. Alice did lose, but they did score 42 points on Miller. You know, so they got
Miller
the
don't got a
offense.
defense.
They got an offense, 42 points. TM played Miller twice and only scored 26 points total. They played Miller twice and only scored 26 points on them. So we all know that everybody can score on Miller. So I think Alex is going to, pick it up on that score against TM because I don't think TM has that offense like Alex does. So that's why I'm going with Alice.
TJ?
Yeah, this was a toss up for me, man. Two hungry young teams, and this is a huge game for both teams going into the playoffs. I picked TM because of the fact that they've had more games, and it just seems like there's a trend going on with TM right now. They have games where they win close, and then they play teams like Miller and Port Lavaca, and they get blown out. And then the next week they beat Beeville, and then they lose to Miller. So it seems like it's a trend going on with TM. Like they want to pick and choose which games they want to win. It looks like through the schedule, but they've had some pretty impressive wins. Honestly, they've had some pretty impressive losses too, with Somerset as well, 30-26. And I I do not argue with Johnny's point on TM scoring 26 total points on Miller, and Miller actually scored over 100 points on Toloso Midway. So it's going to be a dogfight. Anybody can win this game. I picked TM because of the amount of games that they played. I could be wrong, but it's a toss up for me on this one. I did pick TM to win though, so don't don't underestimate the points.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go with Johnny, and I'm gonna pick Alice too. And for kind of like the reasons that I stated, I think if Alice would have played like TM played, I believe, and not had to take a break, I think they have a better record than TM. And I think I'd still be picking Miller. I mean Alice. But the the only thing that kind of worried me about them is how much games. TM's been playing week in week out, where Alice is not. So you don't know what Alice team is going to come out. How, if they're going to come out rested or what, because they just haven't been able to get on the roll. So that kind of concerned me a little bit. But when I see TM, I just think Alice is the better team, and I think they would have been the better team had they been playing week in and week out like TM. So I don't think the fact that they didn't play is going to have too much of an effect. They understand what's at stake here. And if I'm Alice, after everything that we've been through this season, on and off, no practice, we still got a shot to make the playoffs. I think they're going to come out. And I think they're going to play hard. And as Tony said, this has always been an Alice team that's competitive. they're just competitive out there. They haven't been in the playoffs in a while. Neither has TM. So they're both going to come out. I think they're going to leave it all on the line, all on the field out there. But I do think in the end that Alice somehow will grind it out and they'll get the win. And I'll feel bad if they do because I think we've all here um, on the gridiron are rooting for TM to get in the playoffs, and so I'm going with Alice. I think that they'll grind it out, but boy, I'm also hoping that TM can somehow pull out because I would love to see TM and those boys get in the playoffs, man. Because it's been a hard season. It's been longer for TM than it has for Alice, but I'm gonna have to take Alice because I just think they're the better team and they'll grind it out.
It wouldn't surprise
Um,
me either, honestly. It wouldn't
yeah.
surprise me.
Well, my heart is wanting TM to get
Yeah.
in there simply because they haven't been there in a while, and this is the closest they've been. And listen, guys, and that's in a very tough district. I mean, if TM gets in, you can basically say we got into the playoffs playing Miller, Miller, Cal Allen, and Calhoun. That's big in that district if we can get the fourth spot, and it builds for next year. I just think Alice it will be the better team. I think if they've been playing week in and week out, I think it'd be Alice that'll be taking that fourth spot and not TM. So TM does have an advantage over Alice, but in the end, I think Alice can find a way to grind it out and get the win. Um, Number 6 on the gridiron, you have the big game of the week. I guess you could say it's the gridiron game of the week. You have the fourth ranked Cal Allen Wildcats traveling to number 3 in state Calhoun to play the Sand Crabs. Um, we found out earlier that they're not selling tickets to the public, so we can't get in to watch this game unless we want to go from and see it on the outside. Hopefully, they'll be streaming the game somewhere and we can see it because I think this is going to be a good game. Johnny, I'm going to go to you first. Cal
Um,
Allen or
I did.
Calhoun?
Well, speaking of the game, yeah, there ain't going to be no tickets, but apparently they do stream their games, and I need to get back. Let's see if they wrote any messages on that post that I commented on. So I'll probably get back to with y'all as far as who's streaming it, how they streaming it. But they have been streaming these games. They're um, you would go to me first, right?
Oh,
And I'm probably going to be the
you wanted to
only.
see what I picked.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. This is a good little breakdown here. Well, I'm not gonna say it all. I'll just make it shorter. I'll cut it down some. Like I wrote the whole page on this one. um, well, we both know they're running teams. They're very powerful running teams. I mean, that's what they live for. Both of them do. You know, Cal is going into this game at, just under 300 yards per game. 296 yards per game. That's impressive. You know, playing against the teams they played, the competition. I mean, just they're just out there on that rush. 296 yards. So their ground attacks there. That's what they rely on. They don't pass much. On the season they only got 300 yards passing. So that's total. So that's their rushing. The rushing's their bread and butter. Now Calhoun, same thing. We're comparing 296 to Calhoun's 458 yards per game on the ground. I mentioned so many times how much their rush attack is. 450 yards per game. That's impressive. Very impressive. Um, they got two 1,000-yard rushers. They got a Jarius Stewart who has 1,100 yards, and Steve Johnson who has 1,500 yards. And this is minus the game they didn't play last week. So who knows where they would be right now? Because they're averaging 200-300 yards a game. Them. So I said Calhoun will win this thing all the way through, and the way they're going to win it through is the run attack, and the run attack's been there all year. So I'm going to go with Calhoun on this one.
Hey, Johnny, let me ask you: do you think this will be now? They played Waco La Vega earlier on, right? And I don't know because I think Port Lavaca is a better team now. That was the first game of the season, right? They didn't have a lot of practice going into playing a state ranked team that was actually ranked higher, right? A higher seed than Port Lavaca, and they did okay. But do you think that this will be the toughest defense that Calhoun will face thus far this season? That Cal Allen will be the toughest defense that Calhoun, that these rushers have seen so far this season. So I'm asking, is this a better defense than what they faced with Waco La Vega earlier on in the season?
I don't have an answer for you on that one. I'll be lying if I did.
Okay.
I really think this is going to be just run and go. I mean, this is. Um, I don't know if there are going to be a lot of breakaways. If there isn't no breakaways, this is going to be a very low scoring game. I think so. There's going to be pounding. I think they're just. I assume they're going to be switching touchdowns. You know, if I wanted to predict the score, I would say 35-28 Port Lavaca.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. We're gonna hold you to that prediction. We'll see what happens. Tony, before you break it down, is this game gonna come down? Because they're both talented. I mean, Cal Allen's got talent on both sides. Calhoun's got both talents. I think Cal Allen might be a little better on defense than Calhoun. Calhoun just gave up 70-some points to Miller. But does this come down in your mind to penalties and turnovers?
This is definitely going to be a game that's based off of the fewest mistakes. Definitely, turnovers and penalties. But it's also going to be a game of who can perfect their game plan. You know what I mean? And that's really what it is. That's really what it's all about on Friday night is, every coach, every team has a game plan when they show up, and you got to perfect it. And we've seen even Rockport, we have this game plan and we go and we say we're going to run the ball and then we play Flower Bluff and they take the clock away from us. You know what I mean? And that game plan didn't work. So it's going to be about who can execute their game plan and who can make the fewest mistakes. And I don't think the game is going to be that high of a margin. Johnny's saying a touchdown. I'm thinking it's going to be one of those 2-point conversions for the win type of games. You know what I mean? It's going to be less than 7-point game. That's what I think. I think it's going to come down to the last possession. Who can grind out the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and that's what I think the game's going to come down to because that's how big of a caliber game this is. So we'll see what happens. I know Cal Allen wants that revenge from that loss last year, but Port Lavaca wants to keep that crown, and I think they're going to do everything they can to keep it. So we'll see what happens.
JT or TJ? I'm sorry.
You almost got me there. On a serious note, man.
Wow. Hey, TJ, okay. Hey, my apologies. I'm watching something on TV and then I'm trying to talk to you. So
you're good.
TJ, let me correct that. TJ.
Oh man, what a hard game to predict. You talk about two really good run defenses, two really good run offenses. You got Phil Danaher on one sideline, and you got Richard Whitaker on the other, coaching against each other. These two are great football coaches in South Texas. It's going to come down to the wire, and it's going to have to come down to who can hold on to the ball, who can minimize penalties, and who can create turnovers. That's another thing I see in this. Who's going to create more turnovers? Who's going to have that advantage? I see Port Lavaca Calhoun winning this because I feel like they're the more aggressive defense and the more aggressive team than Cal Allen in this game. Like I said about the Alice and Toloso Midway game, this game could go either way. But I'm sticking with Port Lavaca Calhoun with a huge district title win, and they are going to win 35-31 as the final score.
Well, guys, I'll tell you this. I'm not going to make a prediction, but I've got to go with Cal Allen because I already said that they were going to go all the way to state. So, there's still a pathway that they could lose this game and go to state. I'm basing this. I think both teams got talent. I do slightly think that Calhoun is the better offensive team than Cal Allen. But on defense, I think Cal Allen is a lot better on defense than Portland Lavaca is. And that's evident to the big game that they let Miller score 70 something points. So what it really comes down to is Calhoun's offense against Cal Allen's defense. I think Cal Allen, um, if they can slow down, because I don't think they're going to completely stop Calhoun's offense, but if they can slow them down, I think they got a shot. But they got these two running backs that I think, you got to play for 4 quarters. So I think it's going to come down to turnovers. Calhoun, if they put themselves in a position with turnovers, that's really going to hurt. And they'll lose this game. So they almost got to play perfect football because to me, I think this would be the best defense that they play. But I'm going to go with Cal Allen against you guys because I think Cal Allen with the experience. I know that they lost last year, and I don't know that this team is any better, Cal Allen, this year than they were last year. It's just one game, so I think both of them are going to go deep in the playoffs. But I'm going to go with Cal Allen. I think Cal Allen can win this game, not by much, but I think that they'll win. You got to remember, Calhoun had 2 weeks too to prepare for Cal Allen, and I think that's going to help Calhoun out too to prepare their guys. Where Phil Danaher only had 1 week, so that may play uh, into effect too if Calhoun wins this game. But I'm going to go with the Wildcats to win a really tough, close game over Port Lavaca. Number 7 on the gridiron, you have Canyon Lake Hawks. They'll be traveling to play Burnett Bulldogs. TJ, who do you got?
I I did a little bit of research on these teams. I was not impressed with Canyon Lake on this one, even though they're a 4 or 5 team. I think they're going to go 4-6 against Burnett, and I just think Burnett had a better strength of schedule, and I think they even though they're 4-4, I think they're a little bit better than Canyon Lake talent wise. So I'm sticking with the Bulldogs on this one.
Tony?
I'm gonna have to disagree with TJ, and I'll tell you why. Because I know we talked about Lampasas earlier in the season when they played. I believe it was Wimberley, and they put a whipping on them. Right? I don't know if y'all remember that, and I'm the only one that chose Wimberley. Well, Canyon Lake only lost to Wimberley by 6 points. And Burnett lost to Lampasas by 6 points. And Burnett lost to them 45-7. So I think because of that game and that game alone, I'm going to go with Canyon Lake.
Johnny?
I saw the exact same thing Tony saw. That game against left passes. That was a big difference. The point margin there. They both lost, but one competed right there. One was, in fact, I think it was last. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was just basically one score compared to Burnett's blowaway on that one against left passes. So, yeah, I saw the same thing what Tony said. So I'm going with Canyon Lake on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Canyon Lake as well. But I can see where TJ believes that Burnett can win. I think this is a pretty evenly matched. Canyon Lake hasn't been impressive. They've done good, and then they've kind of fallen too. So I do see a pathway where Burnett can win this game. Although I'm going with Canyon Lake. I think this would be a good one, and I can't see Burnett possibly winning this game. We'll see what happens on Friday, but I'm taking Canyon Lake. Number 8 on the gridiron, you have number 7 El Campo Rice Birds traveling up to Needville to play the Blue Jays. Tony, I'll go with you. Who do you have? Needville, El Campo.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Del Campo. One, they have the better record, but two, you know, El Campo played Port Lavaca, and we know how good of a team Port Lavaca is. and that game was 39-27. So if you can hang with Port Lavaca like that, for 4 quarters without letting the game get away, I mean, that says a lot about the way you play, and that is their only loss. So I'm going to have to definitely go with El Campo in this game, hands down.
TJ?
I agree with Tony. Uh, El Campo Ricebirds. I played them my sophomore year in the third round of the playoffs. To me, El Campo has been consistently good. So is Needville, but I don't think Needville can handle this offense that the Ricebirds have. Um, I just think that El Campo is going to run away with this. Not by much, by like 2 touchdowns maybe.
Johnny?
I had forgotten about that Port Lavaca El Campo game. Totally forgot about that. Anyways, I was ready to go with El Campo on this one. A couple of the head games that I saw was they both played Bay City, and Neville gave up 49 points at Bay City. El Campo only gave up 8. So a whole lot total better defense on that one. And I guess Columbia, Neville had to go overtime to beat them 24-21. Wow. El Campo took that game 41-13 easily. So between those 2 games, back to back like that, I'm easily going with El Campo on that.
Yeah, and El Campo has a young running back too that we seen last year. He's a beast. So
Very true. I'm going El Campo as well. Number 9 on the gridiron, Gonzalez Apache traveling to play for the Cuero Gobblers. Johnny, Cuero, Gonzalez.
I'm going Cuero. Going Cuero this time. Gonzalez is just not having that season. Cuero has been up and down, and Cuero wants to get in. They're hungry to get in, and they're just going to take this one.
Tony?
yeah, I'm gonna go with Cuero as well. I mean, Cuero's like up and down on the games they win and lose. Like they win games that you think they're gonna lose, and they lose games that you think they're gonna win. So I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Gonzalez could this. We talked yesterday about teams spoiling it for other teams that are not getting into the playoffs that just want to spoil it for someone, and this could be one of those games. Gonzalez could be trying to just spoil Cuero's season because if Cuero loses another game, depending on what happens with the other games in the district, they may not be in the playoffs. So Gonzalez might be in it just for that. So we'll see. I'm going to go with Cuero, but I look for Gonzalez to make a play to try to spoil it for the Gobblers.
Hey, TJ, Tony makes a good point there. Cuero does need to win this game to possibly stay in contention. I don't know if they lose, if they make the playoffs, not sure. But Gonzalez, they could be a spoiler. I can see this game going that way. We're saying, look, we don't really have much to play for other than we can spoil Cuero's chances. They didn't make the playoffs last year,
Yeah.
and we all know how much Cuero wants to make that playoff. So who do you got, Cuero, Gonzalez?
So I picked Cuero in this game, but here's the thing too. I have seen that before. There's a small town in Central Texas called Moody, Texas. All right, we were in Gonzalez's shoe. I wasn't playing high school. I was in junior high, I believe, or middle school, and we played against Crawford. Crawford was on a playoff streak since the early '90s, I believe, for playoffs, and this was back in I want to say 2006, 2007, and they came to Moody, and we beat them 21-20, and that knocked them out of the playoffs for the first time in over 2 decades, I believe. This could happen, and if Cuero does lose, they will not go to the playoffs. If Smithville wins, if LaGrange wins and Cuero loses, Smithville might get that shot, or vice versa. I haven't looked at their division records or their district records, but if Cuero loses, they have a real good chance of
I want to say one more thing about Gonzalez.
Yeah,
You
go ahead.
know, their record does not say how good of a team they are, because when you look at their schedule, they played
Yeah,
El Campo, they played Burnett, they played Fredericksburg, they played Liburnia. Their schedule has loss written all over it.
yeah,
So, you know, they are not 1-8 because they're not a good football team. You know, they're 1-8 because the coach, you know, wanted a tough schedule so to get those boys ready for possible playoffs. And it didn't happen that their way this year. But their schedule, I mean, their record does not show their talent that they have, because they had a
yeah,
really tough a really tough schedule that, I mean, it'd be hard for a lot of teams to try to make the playoffs or try to get a win with that schedule.
yeah. I agree, Tony, and I think I did pick Cuero to win, but I have that sneaky feeling that that one loss team can strike at Cuero, and Cuero might be spoiled. We're keeping eyes peeled on that game for sure. So
Hey, Tony makes a good point that Cuero's beatable. They haven't
yeah,
been the dominant Cuero that we've seen before. So they're playing for a playoff spot. Gonzalez is not. But that's a real good point that Tony brings up. Gonzalez has had a very tough schedule. So, if they go back and play easier teams, their record would be different, right? So they play tough teams. And I'm going to go with Cuero like you guys. I'm going to go with the crew. But boy, Cuero is beatable. And Gonzalez, because of the teams they played, could play spoiler. They could come out and spoil Cuero. So it's not a given that Cuero will just come in and win this game. They're going to have to they're going to have to play 4 quarters if they want to beat a Gonzalez. Because I think I'm going to agree with Tony. I think Gonzalez is better than what their record shows. This is going to be a good
yeah,
one.
I agree. Um, Gonzalez, they may have lost to El Campo and all them, but they had a really tough schedule to play against, and Cuero they didn't have that schedule compared to Gonzalez, and not to mention their district too. My goodness, you got Smithville, you got Giddings, Navasota, Lagrange, and then you got Cuero and Gonzalez. So it's a tight race for that fourth spot. But if Gonzalez can pull it off, Cuero might not be in the fourth spot anymore.
Yeah, I got their district standings. Right now it's Giddings, Navasota, Smithville, Coral, Lagrange. So that could easily change. Lagrange wins and Coral loses. Lagrange is back in that fourth spot. So right now Coral's in the 4th seed. But if Gonzalez beats them and Lagrange wins, Coral's out. So they have to win this game. So
With
It's a must win for those three teams: Smithville, Cuero, and Lagrange. It's a must win. So
well,
uh,
that's go ahead.
oh yeah, it's honestly a must win for those three teams. And if Cuero loses to Gonzalez, they are out. And if Smithville loses to Lagrange, they gotta watch to see if Gonzalez beats Cuero.
yeah, well,
Same way.
Smithville's in anyways, but it's for seeding. If they lose and Cuero wins, they go to 4th seed and Cuero goes to 3rd seed. So Smithville's in. It's Cuero and Lagrange. If they both win, Cuero's in.
Okay.
If Lagrange wins and Cuero loses, Lagrange is in, Cuero's out. That's the way it's showing on the standings right now. So we'll see what happens. It's a lot of things could happen in that
Yeah,
district.
it's got my mind spinning.
Which brings us to game 10 on the gridiron. Smithville Tigers going up to play Lagrange Leopard. Johnny, I'll go to you. Lagrange,
This
Smithville.
is this is an interesting district. How it's going to end. That's last week I pointed this out. Last week, I wanted to throw these games in there because I knew this is what it was going to come down to.
Mhm.
Can't forget that district right up the road. Um, Now the negative thing I had about Lagrange, which I didn't know Gonzalez had that powerful schedule. You know, Lagrange's only win is against Gonzalez in district. You know,
Yeah.
so that's what counts. It ain't that 4 or 5. It's that one win only. So Now Smithville, on the other hand, they got 2 losses. You know what? They're 2 losses against the 2 teams in the district. And barely lost. I guess Navasado getting 23-20 and Giddings 18-15. So they're 1 score away from beating those teams and fighting for the district title. They would be playing for the number 1 seed right now. If they just had to pull one of those games out. So and then rely on the other team to beat the other team. So, all they had to do was just 1 score. They would have been like hoping for that number 1 seed, or them to win this one and somebody to lose this coming up game between the team that we're going to talk about later. So the way they competed against those 2 top teams, I'm going to go with Smithville on this one.
TJ?
Well, Johnny just convinced me that I should go with Smithville. Thank you, Johnny, for making me change my pick.
That's why he doesn't like to go first.
Yeah. And yes, I looked at Smithville earlier, but also I looked at LaGrange, and I kind of gave the benefit of the doubt for LaGrange, but then you kind of woke my sense just talking about Smithville, about how they could have been the top seed team, and it got me thinking. And I think I should go with the Tigers. They're a pretty good team after all. So LaGrange, they kind of struggled this season, as we all know, and their only win is against Gonzales, like Johnny said, and that's enough to convince me to pick Smithville over LaGrange at LaGrange, which is a tough place to play. But I think Smithville's going to spoil it for LaGrange in this one.
Tony?
Well, let me tell you something about LaGrange. LaGrange beat Lavernia. Okay, and Lavernia is a tough team, and LaGrange beat Lavernia. LaGrange beat Lago Vista. They had some spurts where they did some good things. Now, we just finished talking 10 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes about how tough this district is. And it is very tough district. 1-3 and 2-2. I mean, it's a tough district to be in. It's one of the most interesting districts that we talked about all season just because of all the different things that could happen. But like I said, LaGrange has had some spurts of some good things that they've done. LaGrange has a winning history. But it's not enough for me to pick them in this game. I'm going with Smithville.
I thought you were going the other way.
Did you just
pull
a Lee Corso?
I'm going with Smithville. But like I said, Smithville's in it anyways. If they win or lose, they're playing for seed right now. They're 3rd seed. If they win, they stay there. If they lose, they could drop to 4th, depending on how the other games turn out. But I think Smithville's going to take this game.
I'm going Smithville as well. Number 11 on the gridiron, you got Giddings Buffaloes traveling to Navasota to play the Rattlers. Tony, I'll go to you. Who do you have? Navasota? Giddings.
Well, I definitely have Giddings, not because they're number 1 in their district right now, but I mean, they've had a pretty tough schedule, playing Belleville. They barely beat Columbus. I know we talked about Columbus earlier, about who they played. They lost to Navarro, which we know how strong Navarro is, beating Wimberley this season, who's, 2nd place in state last year. So Giddings, they're number 1 in their district for a reason, and I'm going to go with them.
TJ?
Like Tony said, Giddings' resume impressed me this season. Their 2 losses were against really, really talented teams, and they've beaten really talented teams. And so far, they've been undefeated in their district. They haven't lost to anybody. Uh, the only thing I have against Navasota is I don't think they can handle Giddings at all. I'm going with the Buffaloes on this one.
Johnny?
I'm gonna go with Giddings on this one. The reason why I'm looking at this Coral game, in which Novasato lost against Coral 38-21, and Giddings had Coral on this one by beating them 35-31. So, in just that matchup, I'm going with Giddings on that one. Even though Coral was hot and off, so but I'm still gonna go with Giddings on this one.
I'm going with the crew as well. I'm going with Giddings. Number 12 on the gridiron, Palacios Sharks. They'll be traveling to play Orange Grove Bulldogs. Ooh, this is a good one. Um, TJ, I'm going with you first on this one. Palacios or Orange Grove?
As Orange Grove fans know, I hate to say this, but I'm going with the Bulldogs. Here's the reason why: because Orange Grove, they've only lost 2 games this season. Flashes has lost to 3 games, and they haven't. Flashes didn't really impress me this season as far as defense, and honestly, that Orange Grove offense is pretty tough to play against. And I'm sticking with the OG Bulldogs on this one.
Johnny?
I think Palacios did a great job this year. uh, Palacios, I think, has an offensive team too. I didn't write any points of who they played against, but I did take a notes as far as they had bigger wins over Orange Grove. I think Orange Grove had a few closer games, and Palacios had some little bit bigger bigger wins. More points, more spread out games, more spread out points was what I meant. Um, so I'm going to go with Palacios on this one.
Tony?
Yeah, Orange Grove does have a better record. But when you look at the industrial game alone, and the schedule that they had playing Tidehaven and beating them, Rice Consolidated. They didn't get blown out by Stake Rank Yoakum. I mean, they played Yoakum and they scored 17 points on that team. So I'm gonna have to go with Palacios, and Orange Grove's had some games where they struggled. Yeah, they beat Sinton, but that was early in the season. You know what I mean? But they almost lost to London. A smaller school. So I'm gonna go with Palacios.
Hey, I'm going to ask this question. Both of these teams already have a playoff spot, or is one still fighting to get in?
I think
Mm,
I think they both do have a playoff spot. I, because
let's
they
see.
they have Aransas Pass, Mathis, and Goliad in their district.
So they're playing for third seed. That's what they're playing for. They're playing for third seed right now. They have Palacios there, but of course, if Orange Grove beats them, they move to third, and Palacios moves to four. So yeah, they're both in. They're 3 and 4 right now. They're playing for the third seed.
This is a tough one for me, really, because I can see both teams winning this game. It'll just come down to who can make the plays. But I do like Orange Grove's offense just a little bit more. But like Tony says, man, they've struggled in some games that I thought that they should have won. They struggled. So that offense, as good as it is at times, it's not consistent. They can come out and put up 40 points, and then they can come out the next week and struggle. I don't know why that happens. Their defense is mediocre. I think Palacios is the tougher team all around. But they are playing in Orange Grove. So looking at this game, and it's tough for me, but I'm gonna go with Palacios just because I think they're the better team, the all around team. They're better. And we know that this seeding third to fourth in district means a lot because it sets. If you go last, you play the best team in the district up above you. So I think it's going to be a really good close game. But I think Palacios is going to win this game. So I'm going to go
I
with
do
the
I do
Sharks.
I do have to say this though about Flashes and Orange Grove. The thing that got me with Orange Grove and Palacios. Palacios barely beat Goliad at home, and Orange Grove put up 50 points and they did give up 26 points to Goliad, but they played in Goliad and beat Goliad 50-26. So that's why I'm picking Orange Grove on this one because
But when you
Palacios
look
seemed
when you look at the
Palacios
Aransas pass game, when you
yeah
look at the Aransas pass game, Palacios beat Aransas pass 69-7. Orange Grove beat Aransas pass 56-27. So
that is true.
for the simple fact that Aransas pass could score 27 points on Orange Grove, Palacios could come out here and score some points. So
Yeah,
they're gonna have to tighten that defense up because we've all seen Aransas pass play, and if they could score 27 points on a team, that defense got some problems, and they need
yeah,
to fix them before this Friday.
yeah.
So we'll see. Their
Good
offense
points
is gonna
though.
have to throw out.
Yeah, good points though. I do agree with you on that. They do need to fix their defense,
But you know what,
um,
TJ? Here's the
yeah,
deal with Orange Grove. You don't know that offense is explosive. That quarterback is good,
yeah,
and they've got some receivers. Orange Grove is capable of scoring 40 to 50 points a game with that offense. You just don't know what offense is going to show up. I mean, sometimes they show up, and if they're on, it's going to be if they're on, it's going to be a long night for Palacios, right?
yeah,
But I don't know. I've seen this team throughout this season where that offense is explosive and sometimes they struggle. Don't really know why. So because of that and what they've done off and on this season, I just think Palacios will take this one. But in no means would I be surprised if Orange Grove wins because, like I said, they've got one of the best offenses in this area as far as
yeah,
small goals go. You've got a really great quarterback, and so it just depends on which offense is going to show up Orange Grove.
Yeah,
But
well,
I'm going Palacios.
Orange
Go ahead,
Grove,
Tony.
Orange Grove is kind of like the Miller of this district. I mean,
yeah,
Miller has to score more points to win their football games, and it's the same thing with Orange Grove. They can score a lot of points, but they allow a lot of points. So they just have to score more points than the other team. Like their offense has to keep them in the game, and it should be the other way around, getting closer to the end of the season. Like your defense needs to keep the game close, but for Orange Grove, their offense just has to keep scoring to keep the game close. Palacios can score points, so their defense is going to have their hands full. So we'll just see what happens. It's going to be a good game though.
yeah. I'm highly anticipated about this game.
Number 13 on the Gridiron, Blanco Panthers, traveling to play Lago Vista Vikings. TJ, you got first shot at this.
All right, so Blanco they lost to Lano, a very impressive Lano team. Um, and Blanco they're not a bad football team either. They got whooped by Lano. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but you got a 5-3 Lago Vista team that is kind of struggling on defense, kind of just sitting there. Probably the same situation as Orange Grove, same situation as Miller as far as defense. But I'm going with Blanco on this one big. I I just think they're a good football team and they are a threat in the playoffs. So I'm going with the Panthers.
Johnny?
I'm gonna just go with Blanco on this one. It's just that's just the gut feeling for me. I really didn't find anything that really convinced me on either way. So I'm just gonna go with Blanco on this one.
Tony?
Yeah, I picked Blanco too, just because their only losses to Lano. I mean, Lago Vista lost to Lano as well, but their other losses to another highly state ranked team. They lost to Shiner. They lost pretty big to Shiner,
Yeah.
but and even though they both beat Comfort, and I think let me see. Yeah, Lago Vista had a bigger win against Comfort than Blanco did, but something's telling me that Blanco is going to win. they Lago Vista lost to LaGrange. We talked about that, and LaGrange just doesn't have a winning record this season. Of course, like I said, they are in a tough district, but just because of their comfort game, I'm gonna go with Blanco.
Fun fact about Lago Vista, though. Couple years ago, I don't know if y'all remember this. This is the team that drove 4 hours to Refugio and beat them at home. This was a couple years back, but this was the Lago Vista school that came down all the way from home, all the way to Refugio to play on that beautiful field that Refugio has. Hopefully, their stands will be done by the time the season's over with. But they came down and they actually shocked the Texas high school football universe that year. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lago Vista pulled the rabbit out of the hat with this one too.
I'm gonna follow the crew. I'm gonna go with Blanco.
TJ had Lago Vista though, right? He said Lago Vista.
No, he
No,
said Blanco.
I said Blanco, but
Oh,
I wouldn't be
okay.
surprised if Lago Vista were to be a surprise win over Blanco. But
Another
I
good game.
picked yeah, I think Blanco will win it for sure.
Game 14 on the Gridiron. You have Highland Park going up against number 7 Longview Lobos. Johnny, I'm gonna let you take this one first. Who do you have?
I would straight up with Highland Park on this one. Just more impressive wins. That's what I really went by. Um, Age wins against good teams. I think 2 of the 3 are good teams. So I'm gonna go with Highland Park on this one. I think they beat 2 teams that actually the first only losses of the season. I think I remember seeing. I can't remember who they were, but so I'm gonna go with Highland Park on this one.
Tony?
Yeah, Longview has more games than Highland Park, but I remember a couple of years ago, Jerry Jones' grandson winning state championship with Highland Park. So I'm a fan just because I feel like it's kind of like the high school Cowboys, just because they had Jones playing for them. So I'm gonna go Highland Park just because of that. It's hard to say. They only played 3 games, but tough games, and they won. So I'm gonna go with Highland Park as well.
TJ?
Going with the Scots on this one. To me, you can't go against Highland Park at all. They have a pretty decent defense. Even though they gave up 36 points to Copel and 21 to Sherman. Longview, on the other hand, they have given up quite a few points. Like against Westbrook, they gave up 28 when they scored 51. West Mesquite, they gave up 24 when they scored 49. They could put up points, but their defense is not always there. When they played against Temple at the beginning of the season for them, they lost 40-13, and this is to an unranked Temple team, and they're ranked number 7, and they lost 40-13. Um, I'm going with Highland Park, and they're a threat in the state championship run too.
That's gonna be a
Yeah,
tough game.
Yeah, I'm going Highland Park as well. Number 15 on the Gridiron. We have Port Isabel and Raymondville. So this is right in our backyard. Tony, I'll go to you first. Who do you have? Port Isabel, Raymondville.
Yeah, I know we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about last week's games. This is only Port Isabel's second game, I believe, and I know they want to compete for that spot in our district for the playoffs, and the only way to get there is through Raymondville. Raymondville's 1-1, but that one game they lost to is Victoria West, and that just sticks with me because Victoria West is playing good football right now. So and the team they lost to, Mission, I believe it was Mission Veterans Memorial, right, and down in the valley, and that's always a playoff contending team. I remember our Veterans Memorial team playing them a couple of years ago in the playoffs. So I'm gonna have to go with Raymondville. I think Raymondville wants that playoffs. They got a playoff tradition, and I'm gonna go with Raymondville.
Johnny?
What do you got, Johnny?
Let's
Oh,
go
boy.
back. Okay, I do give a lot of credit that Raymondville beat um, Victoria West. I give a lot of credit. I thought that was great, but that was back in October the 9th. That was many weeks ago. That was some 4 weeks ago. They haven't played a game since then. The Mission game you're talking about, that was a forfeit by COVID.
Oh, okay. They didn't play that game?
They didn't play that game.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
So that's that 1-1 right there. So they've only played one game too.
So they didn't even play them. So they could have beat them maybe. That's possible. That's what you're saying. Okay.
So, they haven't played in so long too. Port Isabel's coming off a big win, a 300-yard rush win. So their first game, they're going 300 yards, against a pretty good, I would say a pretty good team, but a team that's been like playing against bigger schools, the 6A teams, from the Valley. But so I'm going to go with Port Isabel on this just because they're fresh off of this last game. Actually, they didn't win, but
yeah, I was going to say, I thought they lost.
But still, they scored some points and they had they get blown out like regular teams have been doing through the season. I'm gonna stand up for West on this one, being their first win, since they've turned it around since then. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Port Isabel on this just because it's been a while since Raymondville has played. And Port Isabel is just coming off with, I think a great game.
We'll see.
So right now, before I go to TJ, so Tony's got Raymondville, Johnny's got Port Isabel. TJ, who do you have?
Oh man. This is a tough game. It's gonna be a good one, but what matters is who's got the better defense and who's the toughest team. Who's gonna create turnovers? Who's gonna be more disciplined? I think that team is gonna be Raymondville. If they're disciplined enough to play against Victoria West and beat them the way they beat them, I think they got a shot against Port Isabel on this. I hate to say it because I like Port Isabel. They're one of my favorite schools to look at and say, wow, that's a good football team. But I got to go with the Bearcats on this one.
This is a tough one because Raymondville does got just a few more games, so I don't think really who's played how many games really is going to matter in this one. And I know Raymondville had that impressive win against West, but West is a different team now, as Johnny's saying. If Raymondville was to play West this Friday, they might not beat West.
Yeah,
because
they might
it's
not have
just
a chance.
We don't know that, though.
We don't. It's just
We don't
an
know
opinion.
that.
I don't know that, but based on West the way they're playing now, it's just like if Rockport was to play Miller. I'm not so sure Rockport beats Miller this time around. I mean, Miller's a different team. They're playing with a little bit more groove now, and it's just like, you go up against two powerhouses and you lose, but you play good. I can play against a smaller school, and I think Port Isabel and Raymondville both know each other. I don't think that Port Isabel not playing many games is going to have an effect. If they lose this game, I don't think we're going to be able to point and say, well, they didn't have a lot of games. I don't think that's the case. I think they're ready. I think Raymondville's ready, and they both know what's at stake here. So it's just going to come down to who can win this game. And man, I can see, and I thought about earlier, I had Port Isabel written down on my paper, and then about 6 o'clock, I took a little nap, and when I got up and started looking at it, I changed it and I went to Raymondville, and I went with Raymondville just simply because my gut, just because looking at both of these teams, I thought Port Isabel could pull it off, and then my gut just told me no, I think you should go to Raymondville, so I switched it. I had Port Isabel at first from last night on, and then I switched it over to Raymondville. So I'm going to stick with Raymondville, but don't count out Port Isabel just because it's their second team, because this team knows what they got to do, and they could easily go in there and beat Raymondville. But I'm gonna take Raymondville in this one.
Before we go on, on the next game, going back to this game, we're talking about how tough Ravenville is. We don't know exactly what Port Isabel's doing, but can you just imagine if was a real district standings going on right now? Where would Ravenville be right now in the standings? Would Ingleside be playing in the playoffs right now? You
Yeah,
know,
that would be
where would
intense.
Port Isabel be?
I
You know,
think
it makes you
Ingleside. I
think
think
twice. Yeah,
Ingleside was still. Go ahead.
huh?
Go ahead.
But it makes you think. You know how the standings would be right now if they were actually in the district. You know, instead of just fitting in at the end of the season. You know,
I
Well,
honestly, I honestly
especially
think
especially how we're talking about Ravenville. You know, how where would they have fit in that district? You
Yeah.
know,
honestly, I think Ingleside could compete with those teams, along with Rockport, along with Sinton. I think that there would be some changes in the in the district though, but I still think it'd still be those four teams in that playoff spot.
Yeah.
So
you
I
know,
don't
you,
know.
you,
Go ahead.
you know what, TJ? I don't know if this is first of all, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't think Sitton goes undefeated.
no,
Because you would have had to have played Rockport, a good Raymondville team, a good Port Isabel team, and a good Rio Hondo team. Rio Hondo is coming down from 1 to 2. This is it. All three of those Valley teams are in the playoffs just about every year. So I'm not so sure, how the seeding would have played out. There would have been I mean, you would have played a lot of hard. Rockport would have played hard teams. Ingleside. I'm not so sure that we take three of those four spots, because you take Westoso and Robstown out of this area, right? So you have
yeah,
Ingleside, Rockport, and Sinton. You have Raymondville, Port Isabel, Rio Hondo. Man, I'm not so sure it's not two of them. And that Johnny makes a good point. If
yeah.
there's no pandemic, this is one heck of a district, man. And every week,
It's one of the most underrated districts out there, and
Yeah.
it's
I think Raymondville.
it does make you think.
I think Raymondville won district in their district the last 2 or 3 years, and they've made some really good playoff runs. And the games they lost were to good teams. So, uh,
I know they have
Raymondville. What's up?
a one man team.
They do, and in the valley, it's like that. You got somebody who's a workhorse. You know what I mean? You got everyone who just follows. He's a captain on that team. And like Gabriel said, I don't know. Ingleside has a good record, but I don't know if Ingleside makes the playoffs if it's like that. And I don't even know if Rockport's second seed. I mean, it's gonna be tough against Raymondville, Rio Hondo, for that second seed, and of course, really going into the season, I thought Rockport was gonna be first seed, but that didn't happen. But you throw those teams in the mix with no pandemic, and it could go either way. But I don't know if Ingleside. I think it's 2-2. Two from here and two from there. That's what I think, but we don't
and
know. So.
and before we move on, I'll tell you this. Next year, if the football season goes as planned, these guys they'll be playing each other again. So if they go a full season, Ingleside's coming back. They're young. They've got a JV team that just won district here. Those guys will be coming up. Rockport's got all their guys pretty much coming back. Satan's got the Galvan brothers back. And we're still yet to see what the Valley teams are going to go. So, man, I hope that next year we go the full season, because
Yeah,
because whoever wins district next year, if we go the full season, I'll tell you this, they've earned it. But I don't think that one team is going to go undefeated. Just too many good teams in this district to win every week. But if you can do that in this district, you're top dog. So that will really prepare you to go on to the playoffs. The four teams that make it next year, if they play a full season, will be well prepared in the playoffs because every week it's going to be a tough game once you get in a district. There's really only going to be off when you play maybe Robstown because I think Westoso will be a little better next year. Um, but wow, Johnny's right. What if he
Yeah,
would have had him?
makes
I don't know.
it
I,
makes you think, man. I I see it. It makes you think, and it's gonna be a gauntlet if that season does happen,
oh
and
God, I hope it
it's a
happens next year because
big if too. I
I want
hope so.
I
I
want
I
to
want
see it.
I want to see Raymondville versus Ingleside, Raymondville versus Sinton. I want to see the Valley versus the Coastal Bend. That's what
Well,
I want to see.
well, Johnny, check this out. Okay, in the last 3 years, Raymondville been in the playoffs. Port Isabel's been in the playoffs, and Rio Hondo's been in the playoffs. Rockport's been in the playoffs. Sinton's been in the playoffs, except for last year. I don't think they made it. Or did they make it last year? They did. They went 3 rounds as Rockport did. So that's 5 teams in a district that they put together that's been in the playoffs the last couple of years. Now you're throwing Ingleside into this mix as well with a really young team that's going to be up and coming that you can't sleep on now because this team can beat you. Ingleside will make the playoffs this year. They'll be better next year, I believe, than they are this year.
Yeah,
So this
I
is this
agree.
is this is going to be a really good district next year, and I just hope that we can play a full season. This pandemic doesn't get in the middle because I like to see this district, and I like to see who actually wins district next year. Um, Game 16 on the gridiron, Hebbronville traveling to play Odom. Tony, Hebbronville, Odom.
Man, this was a hard one for me to pick. I know Johnny wants to hear what I got to say. Yeah, you know, both of them are playing good football. Um, this is for district.
Yep.
Odom won district last year, I believe. But man, I feel like Hebronville's gonna win this game. I went with Hebronville. I think Odom might win. My gut is telling me to pick Hebronville, but I still think Odom might win. But I'm gonna go with Hebronville. That's my pick.
TJ.
This is a tough one. I actually had to do a little bit of research on this one. I think Hebbronville is a much tougher team than Odom. Not by much. Not by much. It will be a dogfight in this one. Odom has a chance to win this game just as much as Hebbronville does. But I think Hebbronville got this by at least a touchdown.
Johnny.
I have that same feeling that Heberville is going to pull this one off against Odom. Uh, just just looking at the two teams, I just see Heberville the more powerful team than Odom.
I'm going with Hebbronville as well.
Dang, clean sweep on that game. I thought there would be some disagreements.
Exactly.
Odom might win. I think Odom might
Yeah.
win, but I'm going with Hebronville.
Um, well, Odom they struggled early on in the season. They got better, but
Well, they almost beat Ingleside though.
They
Early in the
they
season.
almost did beat a pretty decent Eagleside team.
hey guys, but they didn't. And
But they
almost
did.
doesn't
That's
matter in football.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
But they did.
almost doesn't get you nothing. Maybe a Whataburger is what it gets you, man. But that on the gridiron, that don't mean nothing.
That
You
don't
didn't
mean
do it.
jack.
You could have done it. We almost done it. If we didn't do this, hey man, at the end of the day on the gridiron, that doesn't count. You lost.
Exactly.
Ingleside won.
Exactly.
Move on to the next week, right? No, Odom has been. They've been more dominant the past couple of years than they have. They've struggled somewhat now. They've gotten better, but Heavenville's a good team too. And I'm with Tony. It could go either way. It's going to be a good
Yeah.
one. This would be a good game to go watch. But I'm with Tony too. My gut tells me Heavenville just to pick them. They've been playing really good. And you know what, guys? It might be time to crown a new team, a new district champ. I mean, Odom's owned it. Maybe other teams saying, you know what, it's time to knock these bad boys down and then let's bring them down to our level. It's our turn now. So I'm going to go Heavenville, but wouldn't be surprised if Odom wins.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the crew. Game 17 on the gridiron, you have Pleasanton Grove, Gilmer. TJ, you go first.
This was a tough cookie to chew on. Um, you got Pleasant Grove. They've been in the state championship race. They've had that exposure. Gilmer hasn't had that exposure in quite some time. Gilmer is starting to hit their stride. They're 8-1. Pleasant Grove, they're 7-2. This was a making for a district championship type feel. Both teams are dominant teams. But I do have to say, I've been more impressed with Pleasant Grove than I was with Gilmer. And I have my gut feeling is saying go with the Hawks on this one instead of the Buckeyes. Not because I don't like Ohio State, but I have to go with Pleasant Grove because I feel like they're going to be a state contender again on this one. So I'm going with Pleasant Grove.
Tony?
Yeah, this was a hard one for me. Man, when you get up there, those teams are tough. We talk about, our district being tough next year if everyone plays. Imagine having to play up there every week, man. It is tough. Everyone is ranked. I mean, this is a tough game. I went with Pleasant Grove just because they're defending state champs. They were runners up the year before, losing to Cuero. That's why I picked Pleasant Grove. But man, this game could go either way. Like I said, these teams are all ranked up there, and it's going to be a tough game.
And to add to that, they're in the same division as us too. So what happens if one of us gets to face them in state possibly?
Well, that's what will happen. That's what will have to happen.
Yeah.
Johnny?
This is a good game. I wouldn't be surprised to say a round two to this one. Um, this is coming out of the region two region two. Um, so they're that's a very very tough region. Um, I saw this one pop up and through Facebook actually, and I was all like, "Ooh, that looks like a good one right there." I need to put this one up here. Um, but I'm gonna go with Pleasant Grove on this one. They just got it, like everybody's saying, they have a history of winning, getting there. Um, Even though this is district, but I think they're gonna meet again. I think it's very possible they'll meet again. This ain't gonna be the end between the two of them. But I'm gonna go with Pleasant Grove at this time right now.
I'm going with Pleasanton Grove as well, guys. Um, game 18 on the gridiron. We have Lamarck versus Sealy. Johnny, you go first.
Lamarck had a disappointing season,
Yeah. I looked at it and I was like, oh.
but they're actually playing in the playoff seeding in this one. They're not eliminated out of this. Um, we can face them too. This is another Division two matchup here. Um, but I'm just gonna go with Sealy on this one. Um, who knows? Lamar might have that shocker team that pulls it out. It ain't like they can't do it. But I'm gonna go with Sealy on this one. Just because of the Belleville game they had against each other. Sealy won that one while Lamar kind of got destroyed by that one.
Tony?
Yeah, I went with Sealy hands down. Lamarck's not having a great season. I don't know a whole lot about Sealy, but I remember when I played, Sealy was a really, really tough team. Uh, I remember them beating Aransas Pass pretty bad back in '99 when Aransas Pass was really good. Uh, so I'm just gonna go with Sealy. I don't know a whole lot about their season so far. Besides that, they got a winning record, and Lamarck's just not doing good.
Before I go with TJ, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my pick in the mix here. I'm gonna go with Sealy as well. Lamarck's having not so good of a season, so I think Sealy will beat them on Friday. TJ, who do you have?
This is gonna be a clean sweep for us guys. Going with Sealy. They're ranked number 9. If you haven't noticed, they're ranked number 9 in the state of Texas. Uh, this team barely lost to Navasota, but they uh they they can put up some points now. And Lamar, they have struggled. I don't know if they're on a rebuild stage or whatnot. I don't know what's going on with Lamar, but when I saw their record, like I didn't even think about Lamar this season. I didn't even ask anybody about Lamar, and then this game popped up. I was like, oh, this should be a pretty good game. And I looked at their record. I was like, what is going on? Like they 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 just disappeared from their identity. This isn't the Lamar I know. So I'm gonna have to go with Sealy on this one. I think Lamar is just gonna struggle against the Sealy team.
The next game on the gridiron was number 19. We had number 2 Alito going up against Mansfield Timberwolf. I'm told that game has been canceled due to like COVID issues. So we'll keep an eye on that game to see if it's rescheduled. Um, Number 20 on the gridiron schedule, you have number 2 Cedar Hill going up against number 10 DeSoto. This is gonna be a good one. Tony, I'll let you go first. Who do you got?
Yeah. Again, like I said, when you play up there in North Texas, it's tough every week. Every game, every week is tough. You could have a losing record and beat most teams in the South. Uh, they play hardcore football up there. Um, I looked at both of their previous games. They're both 4-0. But it was a tough choice. But I picked DeSoto in this one. I picked DeSoto to win this one.
TJ?
Well, I don't know if y'all can see this right here. I just updated my background screen. This is my game of the week. Not for the gridiron, just in general. For the state of Texas. This is I don't know if y'all know this, but this is a rivalry game in the Dallas region. It's the Battle of the Beltline. Um, these two teams have a shot to take on Duncanville, another rival of theirs. Last season, DeSoto got spoiled by Cedar Hill, uh, and there were some words exchanged to each other. It's a testy matchup, and the coaches don't like each other, the players don't like each other. Um, they go to church with each other. They even went to school with each other, and then they play on these two teams. So, man, you talk about two undefeated teams, two ranked teams, highly ranked teams in this very tough district that they got to play against Duncanville too. I'm gonna have to disagree with Tony on this one. It was a very hard pick, but I'm going with TTHL. Hook 'em horns.
Johnny?
Yeah, this is a very, 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 very good game to go against the C on this one. Um, I'm gonna go with DeSoto because um, there wasn't really much of a difference in this game between Lake Ridge, between the two teams. Um, Cedar Hill won it 38-14. Uh, but DeSoto decided to shut out Lake Ridge 42-0, and just by that defense, just by that game, that score, I'm gonna go with DeSoto on this one.
And you got to think about it too. For DeSoto, they're looking for revenge after last season, and the the way that game ended. I don't know if y'all got a chance to see it on Facebook, but I shared it. I don't know if I actually shared it to the page, but it's on my Facebook just in case. And it talks about what happened last year. It talks about the history between these two, and I think DeSoto's leading the series, even though Cedar Hill won last season. But man, what a game this is gonna be!
It was a 1 point game, 28-27 last year.
Yeah.
So
Uh, I'm going to Soto as well. This is going to be a good one. I'm going to keep a close eye on this one, but I'm going to Soto. But it's going to be a good one, and I'm glad we're talking about some of these teams up in that Dallas Waco area because, like Tony says, it's tough out there. It's tough. You got some really good teams out there. Um, the last game on the gridiron for Week 11 will be Dumas versus Pampa. I don't know anything about these. TJ, I'll let you go first. You might know something about this two teams. Who do you have?
So they're Dumas. They are 8-1 this season, undefeated in district play. Pampa, they're 8-1 and 1-1 in district play. They also play a pretty decent district. Um, they have this one school called Canyon where Dumas won 23-7 against Canyon, but Canyon beat Pampa 21-7. It wouldn't surprise me if Pampa competed with Dumas and won, you know. But I kind of looked at it with some stats. I did it based off of stats and how well the teams have played. I didn't see anything on Pampa, but I did see a lot on Dumas, and their quarterback's almost at 2,000 yards passing this season. Uh, their running back is almost at 1,000 yards this season. Um, I think if Dumas keeps that pass attack that they have, their quarterback is 22 for 9, 22 touchdowns for 9 interceptions. If he can stay focused, and he's got a pretty good QBR, he's got 104 QBR, and he's also got a completion percentage of 67%. Um, this is, I think it's a rivalry game. I'm not too sure. I believe so, but if Dumas can keep that pass attack, they'll win this game, and I think they will keep the pass attack. It's going to be very close, but I think Dumas got this game based off of what I saw on the Canyon game, and they will win district this season.
Tony?
yeah, I picked Dumas in this game. Uh, I mean, if you look at some of the teams they played before, district, they beat Estacado. Estacado is number one in their district. They're 4-6. You know, they're not they don't have a great record, but they're number one in their district, and they beat them pretty convincingly. So based off of that, not really knowing a whole lot about Pampa, and then of course the Canyon game that he was talking about, I'm gonna have to go with Dumas on this game.
Johnny?
I'm gonna go with Dumas. I see the same thing with the Canyon game. One win, one loss on each other's side. Um, really was a total point difference if you tally it all up. So I'm gonna go with Dumas on this one.
I'm going with Dumas as well, guys. So that concludes our Week 11 schedule on the gridiron. I think we have some good games. So we're going to start preparing for the playoffs. Um, the big schools, five, won't be in the playoffs. They still got to think about 3 more weeks or so of the regular season. So we're going to jump into the 4-3 2A. We may even talk some even smaller schools, but I know we'll be doing the 4, 3, and 2. And as I said, we're looking to go live. We may do a little live, just kind of. We've never done it before, so we'll probably just kind of do a little something somewhere in front of the camera. We'll be live on Facebook, on the Gridiron 64 page, and then the second week we'll see if we can get into some type of restaurant or some type of sports area, that where they may let us in there and do a podcast. I don't know, we'll see, but we're definitely going to be going live when the playoffs start. I'm excited about that. The games eventually we'll probably break them down to 2 podcasts. That we'll do when the 5A gets in there. We'll probably do 5 and 4 on one day, 3 and 2 on another day, because as we get into the playoffs, I want to be able to try to get as many games as we can to predict and break down going into the state championship game, the road to Dallas to the AT&T Stadium. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to break these down. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking we're going to do. We still got some reshuffling to do to see how this is going to work, but that's kind of like what I'm thinking we're going to do, so that we don't try to bombard all these games up on one night. So I'm looking at breaking that down. But at least for week 1 and possibly week 2, we'll be going 4, 3, and 2. It'll be one day once the bigger schools come in. And remember, guys, there's also, I believe, still a 6A. So we may have to throw some of those games in there as well.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But it'll be the bigger schools. And when that happens, it'll be the big schools. And then we'll do the smaller schools. But I'll send out a schedule and let you guys know. But this is good. We'll be back next Monday. Joe Course breakdown this week 11 and see on some of these games what happened. So before I say adios for the night, I always give the last word to the crew, and we'll give it to Tony first. Tony, anything you want to add before we call it a night?
Um, no, I think we really covered a lot of it. Talking about that district up there with Giddings and Navasota. I was looking at Rockport Road in the playoffs, and it looks like they might be playing them in one of those teams in the second round. From what I'm seeing right now, so we'll see how it all pans out up there. Rockport doesn't have a game because of uh Rockport doesn't have a game because of Robstown, coming down with COVID, so that they're off this week. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I look forward to these games. There's going to be some playoff indicating games and district championship games, and it's going to be a good week of Texas football. So I can't wait to talk about it next week.
TJ?
I expect a lot of good things to come out of this week. It's the last week for 4A below, as far as the road to the playoffs. I expect a lot of upsets. I expect a lot of huge wins. And I expect a lot of heartbreak. I'm not saying it to be mean, but I'm saying it because I've experienced it before. I've experienced heartbreak. I've experienced a team like Gonzales play against a team like Cuero and beat them just to keep them out of the playoffs for moral pride, And that's what we live for in Texas high school football, It it it's awesome to see teams win, but it's even better to see an upset. So really watch out for those teams that are looking to pull an upset and to kick a team out of the playoffs to show that they didn't give up the season at all. So be watching out for those teams that will pull upsets or possibly pull upsets, because I know I will. I will be looking for those teams that will probably end up pulling off an upset. But in other words, I expect Ingleside to pull off a very big victory and to get that fourth spot. And we'll see. We'll see if Rockport and Ingleside meet up in the playoffs again. Hopefully they do, because I feel like that would be a better matchup than what we saw the other night. And I'm sure it'll be a better game. And I I can't wait to see Ingleside in the playoffs again. And we'll see if that happens, man. I'm excited about this week. I I really am, and big games for the big 6A schools and huge rivalry game. Like I said, Battle of the Beltline, huge rivalry game. But Johnny, you're next.
um, yeah, the bigger schools, yeah, they're this is their grind, time to grind down. It's time to eliminate your mistakes. Time to take over these seedings. Um, a lot of places, around the state, not just the local, have a lot of, it's there. A lot of teams are still fighting for those spots. So it's still early for the bigger schools right now. We were there talking about the smaller schools few weeks ago. So the big schools still have the ways to go. Now, as far as the small schools, you know, um, we talk about all these playoff teams and this and that, who's going to make it in and this and that. Hey, heads off to the all the seniors in all classifications and every games, all teams, every town. This is your last game. You know, put it all out there. This I feel some I kind of feel for Robstown not being able to play their seniors for their last game. But those Carroll guys are going to play all their hearts out. Those seniors are going to play out. I mean, not Carroll. I mean, um, your West Oso. You're going to play your whole hearts out. So we all been there. We've all had that last. You knew when your last game was going to be out there. You weren't sure so much more in the playoffs. You didn't know when it was going to be out there, but I played on that opposite field where like I knew the other side was their last game, and just to see their faces, I know how those seniors feel. Knowing that it's your last game. So hey, what a great career they had. Good luck whatever they do. So here we go from here on.
Great point. Great point.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely, Johnny. Great point. And guys, I really appreciate coming out. I know we had some bumps. Had to go through some bumps to get some things right. We're still early in this podcast. We've just been on a couple of months, so we're still trying to learn a lot. Still trying to do a lot. But I really appreciate you guys, volunteering your time to come on this podcast and spend an hour, 2 hours. I know it's tough. We all got jobs, we got families and stuff. We got to take care of. We got kids, and but we find the time to do it. So I'm hoping that this will continue to grow, and I'm excited to get all the way to that championship and follow these playoffs because when I started the regular season, I knew the regular season was going to be fun, but I knew the playoffs was going to be exciting because I was just like, man, just being able to follow these teams and break them down and go from week in and week out. It was just going to be great, especially if the team that you're rooting for is in the playoffs. And that's what's happened to us here, right? It just becomes that much more exciting. So I'm glad you guys are able to come in and spend some time on the gridiron and we have a lot of fun with it. But we're also trying to grow. We want to. It's not just a hobby for me. It's to try to get it up there and be able to videotape and do some traveling and get into some of these schools and get them to know us and be able to, kind of interview coaches, assistant coaches, and players. I think that's what's exciting. That's at least what I'm thinking in my mind that we want to grow and of course grow our audience as well, right? So there's a lot of things that I'm still working on, but I just wanted to say I really appreciate you guys hanging in there and coming in and devoting some of your time to the podcast. And I know the three of you guys played football, so your insight is to breaking down the games and kind of sharing some of your experiences when you played and how the game has changed from then to now. It's exciting to hear what you guys and experiences that you guys went through and kind of breaking down and how you guys talk about, gaps in offense. Because I just watched the game. I don't know about A gap, B. I don't know about all that stuff because I didn't play football, right? But it's really exciting for me, and I'm glad I got some guys on this podcast that can break it down to that level to be able to see how you guys come up with your predictions. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night. Johnny and Tony will have to meet up. You guys can text me. I'll text you. We got one more podcast to do, and that's the breakdown of the Rockport Ingleside game, something that we do every week to put on the Pirates Cove. And then TJ, we'll have to get with Seth. And we have three more podcasts to do Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for the 365. So we'll talk about that later on. But have a great night, guys. It's going to be a great week, and I'll see you guys back on Monday to break down week 11. So until then, peace out and have a good night.
All right, man.
The crew.